The fluorescent lights flickered ominously as chaos erupted in the sleek, glass-walled office. Alarms blared through the corridors, and panicked employees scurried like ants whose hill had just been disturbed. Screens froze mid-command, lines of code spilling into incomprehensible jumbles. Phones buzzed incessantly with client complaints, while emails piled up unread in overloaded servers. At the center of it all stood Marcus, the young IT director, his face pale under the harsh glow of monitors. His voice cracked with desperation as he barked orders that no one seemed capable of following. "Someone fix this," he shouted, slamming his fist on the conference table. "We're losing thousands every second." Around him, junior developers fumbled with keyboards, their fingers trembling as they tried to navigate a labyrinth of errors none of them understood. System logs scrolled endlessly across screens, but the solutions remained elusive. The company's state-of-the-art infrastructure, once hailed as unbreakable, now lay crippled before them. Clients were jumping ship by the minute, social media feeds flooded with angry posts, and senior management paced nervously behind closed doors, whispering about potential lawsuits and financial ruin. Amidst the pandemonium, Marcus' mind kept circling back to the same thought: they should have listened to her. He could still picture the scene from 3 months ago when they'd marched her out of the building, her weathered hands clutching a cardboard box filled with decades-old mementos, her lined face stoic despite the humiliation. They'd called her unnecessary overhead, dismissed her contributions as outdated relics of a bygone era. Yet now, staring at the digital carnage surrounding him, Marcus couldn't help but wonder if they'd made the gravest mistake of their corporate lives. In the midst of the technological meltdown, memories began flooding back, memories of Evelyn Thompson, the woman who had been the backbone of their IT department for nearly 30 years. She wasn't just any senior employee, she was the living history of the company's entire technological evolution. When she first joined in the late 1980s, computers were still novelties in most offices, and she had painstakingly taught herself programming languages that were considered cutting-edge at the time. Her journey mirrored the company's growth from a small startup to a tech giant, adapting seamlessly through every major technological shift. Evelyn had always possessed an uncanny ability to connect with both machines and people. While others struggled with cryptic error messages, she approached each challenge with methodical precision, often solving complex issues within minutes. Her desk was legendary, a meticulously organized space where handwritten notes coexisted with advanced diagnostic tools. Younger employees would frequently gather around her workstation, watching in awe as she navigated systems that seemed impenetrable to them. She never hesitated to share her knowledge, mentoring countless team members who went on to become leaders in their own right. What truly set Evelyn apart was her unique blend of technical expertise and human understanding. She remembered everyone's names, birthdays, and personal milestones. During particularly stressful projects, she would bring homemade cookies and offer words of encouragement that somehow made impossible deadlines feel achievable. Her presence in the office created an atmosphere of stability and wisdom that transcended mere technical support. Colleagues often joked that Evelyn didn't just work for the company, she was its institutional memory, its guiding conscience, and its unofficial therapist all rolled into one. Yet, as the years passed and technology raced forward, some upper management began viewing her extensive experience as a liability rather than an asset. They failed to see how her deep understanding of legacy systems complemented the flashy new technologies they were eager to implement. In their eyes, her careful, measured approach seemed outdated compared to the aggressive innovation strategies pushed by younger consultants. This fundamental misunderstanding would eventually lead to the decision that now haunted them all as their supposedly infallible systems crumbled around them. The day Evelyn received her termination notice remained etched in Marcus's memory, like a scar that refused to heal. He had been present in the conference room when the HR representative delivered the news with clinical detachment. After thorough analysis, she had stated, reading from a prepared script, "We've determined that your position represents unnecessary overhead in our current organizational structure." The words hung in the air like a death sentence, each syllable striking Marcus with increasing discomfort. Evelyn had sat perfectly still, her expression betraying nothing but polite interest. Only Marcus noticed how her hands trembled slightly as she accepted the severance package documents. Around the table, the executive team nodded approvingly, congratulating themselves on their cost-cutting measures. "We need to streamline operations," the CFO had declared, pointing to graphs showing efficiency gains and budget reductions. "Our focus must be on cutting-edge technology, not maintaining historical knowledge." As Evelyn gathered her belongings later that afternoon, Marcus had watched from his office window, unable to intervene. Younger employees had tentatively approached her cubicle, offering awkward condolences and promises to stay in touch. But what struck Marcus most was the quiet dignity with which Evelyn handled her departure. She spent hours ensuring every file was properly documented, every password secured, and every critical system accounted for. When asked why she bothered with such meticulous handover procedures, given the circumstances, she simply replied, "This isn't about me. It's about making sure the company continues to run smoothly." The irony of those words became painfully apparent weeks later when minor glitches began surfacing throughout the network. Initial reports were dismissed as growing pains from recent system upgrades, but Marcus recognized the warning signs immediately. These weren't random errors, they were symptoms of deeper foundational issues that only someone with Evelyn's institutional knowledge could identify. Each time a problem arose, he found himself instinctively reaching for her extension before remembering she was gone. The void she left behind proved far more costly than anyone had anticipated, though no one dared admit it publicly. During one particularly tense meeting, Marcus had attempted to raise concerns about the growing number of system anomalies. "We might need to consult with someone who understands our legacy architecture better," he had suggested cautiously. The response from upper management was swift and dismissive. "We've invested heavily in modern solutions," the CTO had snapped. "Looking backward isn't progress." Yet even as they spoke, another server crashed in the background, forcing the meeting to adjourn prematurely. Marcus couldn't help but wonder how long they could continue ignoring the obvious before disaster struck. As the crisis unfolded in real time, Marcus found himself reflecting on the numerous occasions when Evelyn's foresight had saved the company from potential disasters. There was the time she had predicted exactly how a new security protocol would conflict with legacy systems, or when she had identified a critical vulnerability in their database architecture during a routine audit. Her warnings had often been met with skepticism, but her track record proved impeccable. Every scenario she had flagged as potentially problematic had eventually manifested in some form, though usually in ways that could be contained before causing significant damage. Now, standing amidst the chaos of the system crash, Marcus realized they were facing precisely the kind of perfect storm Evelyn had warned about during her final months. The combination of improperly decommissioned legacy systems, incompatible software updates, and insufficient documentation had created a digital house of cards waiting to collapse. What made the situation even more frustrating was knowing that Evelyn had documented these risks extensively. She had even created detailed contingency plans and risk assessments, files that now sat ignored on shared drives while the company pursued its misguided efficiency initiatives. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus as he watched junior staff members frantically searching through archives for solutions, only to find themselves stymied by terminology and references they didn't understand. These were the very documents Evelyn had painstakingly prepared, knowing full well that someday they might prove crucial. Her meticulous nature, once criticized as excessive, now seemed prescient. The comprehensive documentation she had maintained, complete with step-by-step recovery procedures and contact information for key vendors, represented exactly the lifeline they desperately needed but couldn't fully utilize without her guidance. As the outage stretched into its third hour, panic began spreading beyond the IT department. Sales teams reported clients terminating contracts, marketing scrambled to contain public relations fallout, and finance projected staggering losses. Through it all, Marcus couldn't shake the image of Evelyn's neatly labeled files sitting untouched in digital storage, their contents representing the precise knowledge that could restore order but remaining inaccessible without her interpretive expertise. The company had dismissed her warnings as the cautious ramblings of someone stuck in the past, but now those very concerns were proving devastatingly accurate, manifesting in ways that threatened the organization's very survival. The breaking point came when the company's CEO burst into the IT war room, his usual composure shattered. "Do you realize what's happening out there?" he demanded, gesturing wildly toward the windows overlooking the city. "Our stock price is tanking, major clients are threatening lawsuits, and reporters are camped outside the building." His voice rose to a near shout as he pointed directly at Marcus. "You have exactly 1 hour to resolve this, or heads will roll starting with yours." Marcus felt the weight of dozens of terrified eyes upon him. Junior staff members huddled together, their faces pale with fear, while senior technicians whispered urgently about calling in external consultants. The problem was, no outside expert could possibly understand their unique system architecture in time to prevent total collapse. Every attempt to isolate the core issue led to more complications, like pulling threads from a sweater only to watch the entire garment unravel faster. In the midst of this escalating nightmare, Marcus's phone vibrated incessantly with calls from desperate department heads. Marketing needed immediate access to customer data for damage control, while finance required transaction records to calculate potential losses. Meanwhile, the customer service team reported a tsunami of incoming complaints, many from loyal clients threatening to take their business elsewhere permanently. Each request added another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming situation. The physical toll of the crisis became evident as exhaustion lines deepened on everyone's faces. Coffee cups overflowed trash bins, and discarded energy drink cans littered every surface. Some team members had resorted to working directly from the floor, too drained to maintain proper posture at their desks. The air conditioning struggled against the heat generated by dozens of overheating servers and frantic humans, creating an oppressive atmosphere that matched the mounting tension. Through it all, Marcus couldn't escape the cruel irony of their situation. The very cost-cutting measures that had seemed so prudent months ago now appeared catastrophically short-sighted. The investments in flashy new technology, the emphasis on rapid deployment over thorough testing, the dismissal of experienced voices, all these decisions had created a perfect storm of technological failure. As he watched another server bank go dark, Marcus knew they were running out of options and time. The company's survival depended on finding a solution, but every path forward seemed blocked by the ghosts of choices past. As the crisis reached its boiling point, Marcus found himself pacing the empty hallway outside the server room, his mind racing through impossible scenarios. The solution to their problems wasn't buried in lines of code or hidden in forgotten documentation, it was walking away from the building 3 months ago with a cardboard box of memories. Suddenly, his phone vibrated in his pocket, a text message from Rachel, one of the junior developers who had worked closely with Evelyn. "I have her number," it read simply. Marcus's heart leapt with a mixture of hope and shame as he stared at the screen. The call connected on the third ring, and Evelyn's calm voice answered. For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak, overwhelmed by the weight of everything he needed to say. "Evelyn," he finally managed, his voice cracking with desperation, "we need your help." There was a brief silence on the other end, then a soft sigh. "I thought this might happen," she said, her tone neither triumphant nor bitter. "Tell me what's wrong." As Marcus described the cascading failures, he heard the familiar sound of keys clicking in the background. Evelyn was already accessing remote monitoring tools. Within minutes, she was directing emergency protocols with the same authoritative calm that had characterized her tenure at the company. "First, isolate the main server cluster," she instructed. "Then run a diagnostic on subsystem Alpha. I suspect we're looking at a classic case of protocol conflict between layers 3 and 5. As Marcus relayed her commands to the team, he watched the chaos begin to transform into coordinated action. Evelyn's voice cut through the panic like a beacon, guiding them through each critical step with precision honed by decades of experience. The transformation in the war room was immediate and profound. Where moments ago there had been chaos, now there was purpose. Team members moved with renewed confidence, executing Evelyn's instructions with exactness. She had them implement temporary patches she had designed years ago specifically for situations like this, solutions that had been deemed obsolete during the recent streamlining process. As systems began stabilizing, Marcus couldn't help but notice how naturally everyone fell back into following Evelyn's lead, as if their collective muscle memory recognized the return of their true commander. Yet beneath the surface efficiency, a deeper shift was occurring. The young developers who had once viewed Evelyn's methods as outdated now watched in awe as she dissected complex problems with surgical precision. Her explanations bridged generations of technology, connecting current issues to historical context in ways that illuminated rather than confused. Even the most skeptical team members found themselves nodding in understanding as she broke down intricate system interactions into digestible components. The crisis had created an unexpected classroom, with Evelyn once again serving as mentor to a grateful audience. As hours passed and progress continued, something remarkable happened. The initial professional distance Evelyn had maintained during her remote assistance began to soften. She started asking after former colleagues by name, inquiring about their families and recent projects. In turn, team members eagerly shared updates, their voices carrying notes of genuine warmth and relief. The connection that had been severed months ago was rekindling, stronger than ever, forged anew in the crucible of shared struggle and mutual respect. When Evelyn finally agreed to come in person, the entire team gathered in the lobby to meet her. As she walked through the glass doors, carrying the same worn leather bag she'd used for years, a spontaneous round of applause broke out. Marcus watched as she paused, visibly moved, before being enveloped in hugs from former colleagues. The woman who had been dismissed as unnecessary overhead was now welcomed back as a savior, her value suddenly crystal clear to everyone present. With Evelyn physically present in the command center, the atmosphere transformed completely. Her mere presence seemed to reorganize the chaotic energy into focused determination. She moved between workstations with practiced ease, her fingers dancing across keyboards while simultaneously explaining her actions to attentive listeners. What struck Marcus most was how naturally she integrated modern tools with traditional methods, demonstrating that true expertise wasn't about choosing between old and new but about understanding how they complemented each other. Junior developers crowded around her, notebooks in hand, as she worked through complex issues. "See how this module interacts with the API," she explained, drawing quick diagrams on a whiteboard. "It's similar to the bridge pattern we implemented back in '03, but with cloud integration considerations." Her ability to create these connections between past and present technologies opened new pathways of understanding for the team. More than just solving immediate problems, she was rebuilding their entire approach to system architecture. The emotional impact rippled through the entire organization. Department heads who had once questioned Evelyn's relevance now sought her counsel, recognizing that her comprehensive view of the company's technological ecosystem was invaluable. Even executives who had championed her dismissal approached her with respectful deference, seeking advice on preventing future crises. Evelyn handled these interactions with characteristic grace, neither gloating nor holding grudges, but rather focusing on restoring stability and sharing knowledge. Perhaps most significantly, Evelyn's return catalyzed a cultural shift within the IT department. Younger staff members began spontaneously organizing knowledge-sharing sessions, documenting processes with newfound diligence. The competitive atmosphere that had characterized recent months gave way to collaborative learning, inspired by Evelyn's example. Team members started referring to her workspace as the hub, gathering there to discuss challenges and brainstorm solutions. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission was evolving into a renaissance of institutional wisdom and technical excellence. As Evelyn orchestrated the systematic restoration of the company's infrastructure, Marcus observed how her leadership style transformed the entire crisis response. She implemented a triage system that prioritized critical functions while carefully managing resources, demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that went far beyond technical expertise. "We'll stabilize the customer-facing systems first," she directed, "but we need parallel teams working on root cause analysis and preventive measures." Her ability to maintain this dual focus, addressing immediate needs while planning for long-term resilience, impressed even the most seasoned managers. The team's dynamics shifted dramatically under Evelyn's guidance. Gone was the hierarchical structure that had previously stifled communication. In its place emerged a fluid network of expertise where the most qualified person took the lead on each specific challenge. Evelyn encouraged this merit-based approach, often stepping aside to let younger team members showcase their skills. "Rachel knows more about cloud security protocols than I ever will," she stated matter-of-factly, redirecting a critical decision to the young developer. This willingness to recognize and leverage other strengths fostered an environment of mutual respect and accelerated problem-solving. Her influence extended beyond technical matters, touching the very fabric of team interactions. During particularly intense moments, when frustration threatened to boil over, Evelyn's calm demeanor acted as an anchor. She instituted regular check-ins not just for project updates but for emotional support, reminding everyone that maintaining human connections was as crucial as fixing technical issues. "Take 5 minutes to breathe," she would advise during marathon debugging sessions. "A fresh perspective often reveals the solution." These moments of care and consideration helped sustain the team through long hours and mounting pressure. Most remarkably, Evelyn demonstrated how true leadership involved empowering others while maintaining overall direction. She established clear communication channels, ensured every team member understood their role in the larger recovery effort, and created opportunities for knowledge transfer. Junior staff members who had initially doubted their abilities found themselves contributing meaningfully, their confidence bolstered by Evelyn's patient mentorship. The crisis, rather than fracturing the team further, became a crucible that forged stronger bonds and deeper capabilities among its members. As midnight approached on the second day of the crisis, Evelyn stood at the center of the command center, her presence commanding yet comforting. Around her, exhausted team members worked with renewed vigor, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed orchestra. The major systems were stable again, but Evelyn refused to declare victory prematurely. We've stemmed the bleeding, she explained, but true recovery means addressing the underlying weaknesses. Her words carried particular weight coming from someone who had witnessed firsthand how ignoring foundational issues could lead to disaster. The change in company culture was becoming increasingly evident. Executives who had once dismissed institutional memory as expendable now actively sought Evelyn's input on strategic decisions. During a late-night strategy session, the CEO himself pulled up a chair beside her workstation, asking earnest questions about system architecture and long-term maintenance strategies. Other departments began approaching the IT team differently too, recognizing that technological stability required ongoing investment in both infrastructure and expertise. The phrase cost-cutting measure was noticeably absent from recent discussions, replaced by talk of sustainable growth and knowledge preservation. Perhaps most telling was the transformation in how younger employees viewed their roles within the company. Those who had once seen their positions as stepping stones to flashier opportunities now spoke with pride about contributing to the organization's technological foundation. Several junior developers approached Evelyn about establishing formal mentorship programs, eager to document and preserve the wealth of knowledge she represented. The crisis had shown them that true innovation wasn't about discarding the past, but building upon it with respect and understanding. As Evelyn worked through her third cup of coffee, coordinating the final stages of system restoration, Marcus noticed something remarkable. The fear that had gripped the company during the height of the crisis had evolved into something else entirely, a collective determination to learn from their mistakes and emerge stronger. Team members voluntarily stayed late, not out of obligation but from a genuine desire to ensure the company's systems were more robust than ever before. The experience had changed them all, revealing that true strength lay not in chasing the latest trends, but in cultivating enduring expertise and mutual respect. The night wore on, and as Evelyn guided the final phases of system recovery, Marcus found himself reflecting on the profound lessons unfolding before him. What had started as a technical crisis had morphed into something far more significant, a reckoning with the company's values and priorities. The executives who had once viewed experience as a liability now understood that institutional memory wasn't just about preserving the past, it was about creating a foundation strong enough to support future innovation. Evelyn's methodical approach to documenting every step of the recovery process exemplified this truth, transforming what could have been a mere technical fix into a comprehensive blueprint for organizational resilience. Around the command center, team members worked with a newfound sense of purpose, their actions guided by principles Evelyn had been quietly advocating for years. The importance of cross-generational collaboration became evident as younger staff members paired with senior technicians, combining fresh perspectives with seasoned wisdom to create solutions neither group could have developed alone. This synergy revealed that true progress wasn't about choosing between old and new but about forging connections between them. The crisis had stripped away pretenses, exposing the hollow nature of metrics that measured success solely in terms of cost reduction or technological novelty. As dawn approached, casting golden light through the office windows, Marcus watched Evelyn pause her work to explain a complex system interaction to a group of interns. Her patience and clarity in teaching reflected a deeper truth about leadership, that empowering others was more valuable than maintaining control. This realization seemed to be dawning on the entire organization. Departments that had operated in silos now sought ways to integrate their functions more effectively, recognizing that resilience required interconnected strength rather than isolated efficiency. The company's previous obsession with cutting-edge technology at the expense of foundational stability now appeared not just misguided but dangerously short-sighted. The transformation extended beyond technical operations to fundamental aspects of company culture. Performance metrics were being re-evaluated to include knowledge sharing and mentorship alongside traditional productivity measures. Training programs were being redesigned to emphasize continuity and depth of understanding rather than just speed of implementation. Even the physical layout of the office was under review, with plans emerging to create spaces that encouraged collaboration between different experience levels and departments. These changes weren't cosmetic adjustments, but fundamental shifts in how the organization approached its work and valued its people. Yet perhaps the most significant change was the growing recognition that true efficiency wasn't about eliminating experienced voices, but about creating environments where different types of expertise could coexist and complement each other. The crisis had revealed that the company's greatest asset wasn't its cutting-edge technology or streamlined processes, but its people, their collective knowledge, their capacity for adaptation, and their willingness to learn from both success and failure. As Evelyn continued orchestrating the final stages of recovery, her presence served as a living testament to the enduring value of experience, patience, and wisdom in an age obsessed with constant acceleration. The early morning hours brought a strange sort of peace to the crisis room, though the atmosphere remained charged with anticipation. Evelyn moved between workstations with steady purpose, her movements economical yet deliberate. Each instruction she gave carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom, and team members absorbed her guidance with rapt attention. Marcus watched as she stopped beside a junior developer struggling with a particularly stubborn database issue. Without hesitation, Evelyn pulled up a chair, positioning herself as a collaborator rather than an authority figure. "Let's walk through this together," she suggested, her voice gentle but firm. "Show me what you've tried so far." This simple act triggered a chain reaction of similar interactions throughout the room. Senior staff members began pairing up with younger colleagues, sharing insights while encouraging independent problem-solving. The hierarchy that had defined their work relationships dissolved, replaced by a fluid exchange of knowledge and ideas. Rachel, who had once shadowed Evelyn during routine maintenance tasks, now confidently explained complex server configurations to newer team members, her explanations peppered with anecdotes about past challenges and solutions. The crisis had created an unexpected classroom, with learning happening organically in every corner of the room. Even the physical space seemed to adapt to this new dynamic. Whiteboards that had previously displayed rigid organizational charts now bore collaborative mind maps and flowcharts, their evolving patterns reflecting the team's growing understanding. Empty conference rooms transformed into impromptu training centers, where spontaneous knowledge-sharing sessions broke out between tasks. A group of network engineers clustered around Evelyn's workstation, absorbing her explanation of how legacy systems interacted with modern architecture. "Think of it like building layers in a cake," she illustrated, each one supporting the next, but all requiring careful balance. The ripple effects of this transformation extended beyond technical expertise. Conversations that had once focused solely on immediate tasks now included discussions about career development, industry trends, and personal growth. Experienced team members shared stories of their own learning curves, helping newcomers understand that mastery came through persistence rather than perfection. This openness created an environment where asking questions became a sign of strength rather than weakness. The fear of appearing inadequate gave way to genuine curiosity and mutual support. As the sun rose higher, casting warm light across the room, Marcus noticed something remarkable. The crisis that had threatened to destroy the company was instead becoming its greatest teacher. The walls of resistance that had once separated generations of workers were crumbling, replaced by bridges of shared understanding. Evelyn stood at the center of this transformation, not as a returning hero but as a catalyst for lasting change. Her presence reminded everyone that true progress wasn't about replacing the old with the new, but about integrating diverse experiences and perspectives into a cohesive whole.